It's taken Audi 4 years to come up with an S-badged version of its A1 subcompact hatchback. The S1 is also the first car with Quattro in this particular class, and it reprises a very famous badge because the S1 was the car that dominated the World Rally Championship in the 1980s. All of which suggests that the new S1 should be a very special little car. And what better place to find out just how special it is than the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. The technical complexities of shoehorning the Quattro all-wheel drive system into the A1's compact form factor made it seem unlikely that an S-car based on the little hatchback would ever see the light. But finally, the S1 is a production reality, and its credentials appear to be impeccable, combining a more muscular version of the Audi 2.0 TFSI engine with a 6-speed manual gearbox and, yes, Quattro all-wheel drive. It doesn't look half bad either. There's no mistaking that the new S1 is part of the A1 family, but it does debut some significant styling differences, including a new front end, a different grille and slimmer headlights. And because it's an S1 car, it also gets a body kit with hungrier air intakes, sill extensions, and at the rear, a different apron. The most telling part of this car, from a visual perspective, however, are the 4 large-bore exhaust tailpipes. The S1 standard wheels are 17-inch alloys wrapped in 225/40 R17 rubber, but there is the option of an 18-inch rim which looks more convincing. The S1 can be had in 3-door hatch form, as featured here, as well as a more practical 5-door sportback derivative. The 3-door is the cheekier and slightly more juvenile machine, if you can call a small car with a 400,000 Rand plus price tag juvenile. Besides, while the S1 is undisputably a subcompact, there's nothing small about the way it performs, and it's pretty nicely kitted out too. Anyone familiar with a normal A1 will instantly recognize the S1's cabin layout, but because this is an S-car, it does get some very specific details, including grey-faced instruments, a flat-bottom steering wheel, and of course also these special seats. And since this is now the flagship model of the A1 range, you also get a long list of standard equipment. Not all good news, however. This 3-door model is pretty cramped for rear passengers, and because of the Quattro drivetrain, the boot is absolutely tiny. Of course, you can fold down the rear seat to boost cargo space, especially considering that rear accommodation is compromised anyway. The interior layout is pure Audi, with an overriding sense of quality confirmed by the tactile appeal of the switchgear, the surfaces and the finishes. The seats are bolstered for support, and standard equipment is very upmarket, with everything from climate control to Bluetooth connectivity included. The engine of the S1 is in line with its performance aspirations. It's the familiar 2-litre TFSI unit, but boosted in this particular instance to a maximum power output of 170 kilowatt, linked to a torque peak of 370 newton meters. A 6-speed manual transmission is the only choice, and as we've already mentioned, Quattro all-wheel drive is standard. In the S1, Quattro sends most of the engine's urge to the front wheels by default. Drive with gusto, and the rear wheels get more power in the interests of traction and stability. Torque vectoring varies power between the left and right wheels. The S1 is a strong little charger as it should be, with all that power on tap, and of course the 4-wheel drive means that it gets off the mark pretty handily too. Power to weight ratio just under 130 kilowatt per ton. That translates into a 0 to 100 time of 5.8 seconds, top speed limited to 250 kilometers an hour. But it's really the tractability of this car that impresses most. The turbocharged 4-putter has plenty of grunt and is on song from the start, ensuring loads of mid-range urge and incisive in-gear acceleration. The falling rear suspension means handling is equally impressive. With Quattro all-wheel drive, you'd expect this car to feel planted, and it really does. But it's not the only reason. It also has a brand new steering system, which allows a lot more feedback than before. And of course, with the Quattro system comes an all-new independent rear suspension. So the car tracks the chosen line with a lot more neutrality than you'd expect of a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Understeer hardly ever comes into play, and turn-in is succinct and positive. The result is that the rear initially feels lighter and livelier than expected. However, it's never at the expense of grip, and the S1 tracks the chosen line with a precision that comes as a pleasant, confidence-building surprise. So, we've established that the S1 is smart, sporty and very entertaining. We also know that with only 75 units on offer in 2015, it's going to be a very exclusive car. But that exclusivity comes at a price. At 442,000 Rand for this three-door S1, a lot of people may just want to spend a little bit extra, around 80 to 90,000 Rand, for the larger and more versatile S3. But if it's a pure grin machine you're after, this car certainly ticks most of the boxes. A lusty 2-litre turbo engine has a full 170 kilowatt of wallop, while a meaty manual gearbox, quattro all-wheel drive and an agile suspension all contribute to a rewarding driving experience. But this is a small car with a small boot, so practicality is not a consideration, and while it's quick and exclusive, that asking price is a steep one.